In the scorching summer of 1914, a global conflict, the likes of which the world had never seen, erupted. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria set off a chain reaction of events that would engulf the world in war. Europe, consumed by nationalistic fervor and entangled in a web of alliances, plunged into chaos. The intricate network of treaties and alliances meant that a conflict between two nations quickly escalated into a full-scale war involving multiple countries. The Central Powers, led by Germany and Austria-Hungary, clashed with the Allied forces of Britain, France, and Russia. The war quickly spread across Europe, with battles fought on multiple fronts, from the Western Front in France to the Eastern Front in Russia. Across the Atlantic, the United States, geographically distant and deeply divided, clung to a policy of neutrality. The American public was wary of becoming entangled in a European conflict, preferring to focus on domestic issues and economic growth. President Woodrow Wilson, echoing the sentiments of many Americans, declared the war a European conflict, urging his nation to remain a detached observer. He believed that America should serve as a beacon of peace and democracy, rather than becoming embroiled in the violence overseas. America's isolation, however, proved increasingly untenable. As the war dragged on, the economic and political pressures on the United States grew, and the nation's stance of neutrality was tested by a series of provocative events. The brutal realities of the war, vividly depicted in newspapers and newsreels, began to sway public opinion. Stories of the horrors of trench warfare and the massive loss of life made it increasingly difficult for Americans to remain indifferent. The sinking of the Lusitania, a British passenger liner torpedoed by a German U-boat killing over 100 Americans, sent shockwaves through the nation. This tragic event highlighted the dangers posed by the war and the threat to American lives. The Zimmermann telegram, a secret German proposal intercepted by British intelligence, further inflamed anti-German sentiment. The telegram revealed Germany's plan to form an alliance with Mexico against the United States, promising them territories in return. The telegram revealed Germany's plan to incite Mexico to attack the United States, promising them territories in return. This audacious plot was seen as a direct threat to American sovereignty and security. These events, coupled with Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare, which threatened American shipping and lives, gradually eroded the nation's resolve to remain neutral. The repeated attacks on American vessels and the loss of American lives made it clear that neutrality was no longer a viable option. On April 6, 1917, President Wilson, citing the need to make the world safe for democracy, requested a declaration of war against Germany. He argued that the United States had a moral obligation to join the fight and help bring an end to the conflict. The U.S. Congress, swayed by the tide of public opinion, overwhelmingly voted in favor, marking America's official entry into the Great War. The decision was met with a mix of apprehension and patriotic fervor as the nation prepared to mobilize for war. The United States, once a distant observer, was now thrust onto the global stage, its vast resources and manpower poised to play a decisive role in the conflict. The American economy shifted into high gear, producing the materials and supplies needed for the war effort. The Doughboys, as American soldiers would come to be known, were about to embark on a journey that would forever alter the course of American history and leave an indelible mark on the world. Their bravery and sacrifice would be remembered for generations to come as they fought to bring peace and stability to a war-torn world. The United States, though a burgeoning industrial power, was woefully unprepared for a war of such magnitude. The nation had enjoyed a period of relative peace and prosperity, focusing on its own growth and development. Its army, small and ill-equipped, paled in comparison to the colossal armies clashing on the European battlefields. The scale and intensity of the conflict were unlike anything the world had seen before. A crash course in modern warfare was in order, and the Doughboys, many of whom had never ventured beyond their own counties, were thrown into the crucible of fire. They had to quickly adapt to the harsh realities of war. Training camps sprang up across the nation, transforming civilians into soldiers. These camps became hives of activity, buzzing with the sounds of drills and the shouts of instructors. Farmers from the Midwest, factory workers from the industrial North, and cowboys from the West all answered the call to arms, their lives irrevocably intertwined by the shared experience of war. This melting pot of backgrounds created a unique camaraderie among the troops. They learned to handle rifles, operate machine guns, and navigate the treacherous landscape of trench warfare under the watchful eyes of seasoned officers. The training was rigorous, designed to prepare them for the brutal conditions they would face. The first American troops arrived in France in June 1917, greeted with a mixture of curiosity and relief by their war-weary allies. The sight of fresh troops brought a glimmer of hope to the exhausted French and British soldiers. The French and British, bogged down in a bloody stalemate for years, saw the fresh-faced Americans as a much-needed lifeline. The arrival of the doughboys injected new energy into the Allied forces. The doughboys, eager to prove their mettle, were deployed to the front lines where they would soon face the full fury of modern warfare. Their enthusiasm was tempered by the harsh realities of combat. The initial engagements were a brutal awakening for the Americans. They quickly realized that the romanticized notion of war was far from the grim reality they encountered. The trenches, a labyrinth of mud, barbed wire, and death, became their new reality. Living conditions were harsh, and the constant threat of enemy fire loomed over them. The constant threat of artillery barrages, machine gun fire, and poison gas attacks tested their courage and resilience. Every day was a battle for survival. Yet, amidst the horrors of war, the doughboys displayed remarkable bravery, their fighting spirit fueled by a sense of duty and a belief in the cause for which they fought. Their determination and camaraderie became their greatest strengths. The Battle of Belleau Wood, fought in the spring of 1918, would become a defining moment for the U.S. Marines, forever etching their name in the annals of military history. It was not just a battle, but a testament to American fighting spirit and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. The Germans, having launched a massive offensive aimed at capturing Paris, had seized the strategically important Belleau Wood, a dense forest transformed into a nightmare landscape of trenches, machine gun nests, and barbed wire. This forest, once serene, had become a fortress of death and destruction. The U.S. Marines, tasked with dislodging the entrenched Germans, faced a formidable challenge. They were up against seasoned troops who had fortified their positions with ruthless efficiency. The fighting was fierce and unrelenting, a brutal close-quarters struggle for every inch of ground. The forest echoed with the sounds of gunfire, explosions, and the cries of the wounded. The Marines, armed with their signature Springfield rifles and a fierce determination, fought with unwavering tenacity, their resolve unbroken despite the harrowing conditions. Their battle cry of "Devil Dogs," a moniker bestowed upon them by the awestruck Germans, echoed through the ravaged forest, a testament to their ferocity and fighting spirit. For weeks the battle raged, a back-and-forth struggle marked by acts of incredible bravery and horrific casualties. The ground was soaked with the blood of both friend and foe. The Marines, however, refused to be denied. Their spirit and determination were unyielding, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. They fought with a ferocity that stunned the Germans, their relentless assault slowly but surely pushing the enemy back. The tide of battle began to turn in favor of the Marines. Finally, after 20 days of intense fighting, Belleau Wood was declared secure, the Marines having vanquished a determined enemy and earned their place in military history. Their victory was hard-won and came at a great cost. The Marines' triumph at Belleau Wood was not just a tactical victory, but a symbol of their indomitable spirit and courage under fire. The victory at Belleau Wood, though costly, had a profound impact on the war. It shifted the momentum and demonstrated the strategic importance of the American forces. It proved that the Americans, initially dismissed by some as inexperienced, were a force to be reckoned with. Their performance in battle earned them the respect and admiration of their allies. More importantly, it provided a much-needed morale boost to the Allied forces who had endured years of stalemate and staggering losses. The Marines' victory at Belleau Wood became a beacon of hope